everything was really up for discussion at that point, and everything was being figured out. And then we kind of, there had been this idea to start a store, but then it was like, well, no, this shouldn't just be a store. It should be something beyond a store. Or is our mandate just to provide low cost food? Is it just a store? Um, I really feel like at the time there was a lot of still trying to figure out how we could best serve a community. I mean, I remember a lot of discussion about the importance of offering affordable quality food, and sometimes affordable and quality come into conflict, because one of our mandates was to address questions of student poverty and access to food, but we also wanted to be providing obviously organic or ethical or free range foods as well. So I remember there being a lot of discussions about how to negotiate that balance, because organic food can become financially inaccessible very quickly, but at the same time we didn't want to be offering shitty food basically, or low quality food, I should say. So I remembered a lot of discussion about kind of looking at price comparison and what direction we should go in and what we should be offering. And that relates, I remember at the board level, to us talking a lot about the type of work environment we were providing then, and about how it was important to not only be providing, access to food, but then also access to fair employment, and fairly compensated employment, and how to create a space that gives people financial security in their employment as well. Because obviously it was, it was a small organization. I think he might have been the only full-time employee, and then I think the assistant manager's name was Lindsay. That just came to me. And she had part-time employment. And that became a question of, we're asking someone, obviously this is an organization or a cause that everybody believes in, but if you're working part-time and then you're basically being asked to volunteer hours as well, or offering to volunteers hours, what kind of dynamic does that set up? And then even getting into discussions about, well, then how do you negotiate with volunteers, how much they're putting into an organization? I remember there being a lot of discussion about fair compensation, and the importance of creating financial security for people, not just in the food we provide, but also the environment as employers. Which was always kind of funny for me, because at the time I was working at Picasso Pizza on the corner of St. Catherine there and St. Mark, which was like the worst place in the world to work, and it was it was a horribly abusive employment situation. And so it was always funny. It was actually nice, but also funny to be involved in this, in this process of trying to create more, more supportive or more, nicer work environments at the same time as working in this completely horrible space myself. So I remember finding that kind of, interesting to be able to be involved in those discussions and provide that space for someone else, even if my work environment wasn't that. I remember the problem coming up a lot in discussions where we would be talking about if basically all we were doing in the end was making a store, were we just adding into kind of a capitalist system, right? Like, what could we do beyond run a store? And that running a store seemed like we were just another wheel, or another cog in the machine of selling stuff to people. And even if what you're trying to do is sell things you believe in, are you still just participating in a system that sells to people? And kind of really trying to grapple with or negotiate what the mandate of the organization could be beyond being a store and a storefront, because none of us wanted to just be running that. I think there was a real interest in developing community, in having workshops, and in helping people have access to food, even if they couldn't afford it. And I think that's probably where a lot of the ideas to do something like the People's Potato came out of, because we really felt like, yes, it's great if we can be offering food at a lower cost, but what about people who still can't afford it? even at that lower cost? How can you serve that community, and how can you not be making health food inaccessible to people? There was a real interest in wanting to make it accessible and affordable for everybody.